Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to Frostpunk, where today we're taking a look at the final DLC for this game known as On the Edge. The previous DLC was a prequel known as The Last Autumn, where you were preparing the city of New London for the coming storm, and of course the main game is to command and control the city of New London in order to survive that storm. And this DLC, again known as On the Edge, available on August 20th for all PC players, and coming soon to console thereafter, and of course part of the Season Pass. This will be the end of the road, where scouts are being sent out from the city of New London in order to re-establish contact with other surviving settlements and try to rebuild the world. This is going to be a bittersweet DLC. It is the end of the line for this game, and it has been challenging and difficult, and has brought really difficult decisions to your forefront, but now it is time to rebuild the world. What you see there is a train, which was hidden inside of this depot, where scouts will eventually discover that and start re-establishing contact and supply lines with other towns that may have survived the big storm as well. The city of New London will be able to supply your scouts with things that they'll need, such as wood and food, and also coal and other things that might be needed in order to provide temporary shelter, but you will not have a boiler this time. It will be about establishing contact and doing good deeds for other towns and settlements in order to gain trust and rebuild and create a world that everyone can be proud of and live in once again. It will probably take a long time, but we're going to now jump into some gameplay footage here, which I'll speak over, and then we'll hand it over to the developer in order to take a look at it. I'm doing this out of passion. I really like this game. Frostpunk did not reach out to me. I'm just doing this to make a video on the upcoming DLC, and I'm very excited for it to see exactly what challenges are here. You briefly did see a train there, and of course you see your scout balloon again, where we'll be making a small settlement here, but there will not be anything that you can build in the main city. There's Jacob, who will talk to us more about some of that stuff in just a moment, but we are the outpost team. So now you finally get to play as a group of the explorers, of the scouts who go out to gather food and trade with other settlements. For example, in New London, where you're going out to gather wood or finding survivors, and you'll have to do the same here. So let's get to work then. So jumping in, you see that you're on the side of a cliff, hence on the edge, and there's a large elevator that will go down to the train platform that will allow you to then send out trains to other parts of the world and do the trading and possibly bring back people and try to keep them alive or to barter with them. But of course, we know what to do. So there's your little army settlement, outpost of some sort. We're not exactly sure what that is just yet, but of course, we'll have to get started with some basic stuff of giving houses to the scouts, and then of course over there is the giant warehouse that will have to be maybe rebuilt or salvaged, or something will have to be pulled out of there in order to get it operational. So we definitely have the ability to store supplies and send them out to other parts of the world. So essentially we're building an outpost here after the Great Storm, and it is going to be on us to, actually New London itself will make new decisions that we'll have to live with. So the Book of Laws will be under command of somebody else, and so you'll have to play as a scout and deal with those laws. So if they want to cut rations, or if they want more wood or something like that, you'll have to go out and supply it for the main town, and that's what you're going to be doing to keep them satisfied, and then of course trading and talking with other outposts in order to gain their trust and possibly get them to join you to increase your reach and connections with people and try to rebuild humanity that way. So the old ruins here, possibly an old army outpost. Definitely the warehouse is a military warehouse, though, so there could be supplies in there that maybe are dangerous, but the main goal is to find those other towns and then supply them, and of course it'll be based on heavy story choices. So every decision here will definitely have some heavy weight, and just like in Frostpunk before, any decision that you make in the Book of Laws, or I guess at least here in communicating with other people, will have impacts both negative and positive that are long-lasting. Now, it's unknown at the moment if we'll have to build that train or possibly supply it with fuel. Maybe coal, for example, will have to be stored here to put on the trains to get them to operate. But as you can see there's a perfect area at the very bottom for a train depot, and very shortly we'll jump later into the game to see exactly what it looks like to see a much more developed settlement. This seems to be near the ocean or something like that. A lot of mist. We're built on the side of a cliff that then the cliff itself will be used for the railroad tracks to go back and forth deeper into wherever we happen to be, or wherever those tracks may go. So it'll be a long, arduous process to rebuild that, and that'll be the unique challenge in this game. and I'm really excited to see one final DLC. They're really ending this one nicely, I think. They could continue to add DLCs that add different maps and different story elements, but honestly, with a game this good like Frostpunk, you don't really have to do much more in order to finish up the story. And this, of course, will allow the developer to move on to other projects, and since they did so well here in Frostpunk, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do next. Well, now the settlement is more developed. We see a lot more homes and such around the center there, around the main outpost, and it's going to be interesting to see how people keep warm here. We're not dealing with the temperatures of before, but since we don't have the large reactor, it'll be interesting to see exactly what types of things can keep them warm and what types of materials would need to be traded and bartered with in order to keep them alive and happy. Here's a lot of other sites that you can go to, by the way, hot springs and other cities and towns and settlements that people may have discovered. Hot springs there being one where people probably kept alive by keeping near the hot springs. And as you can see here, people are starving a bit. And there you go, hot springs, you'll be able to trade with them and make many different decisions. So there's a large dialogue tree that will go on display based on your other decisions. So it's going to be a much more bigger brain process of building the town will be easy, but keeping the relations and the diplomatic decisions will be much more complex and more heavy-weighted than whether or not you built your town in time. Oh, wait, what's going on here? New London requesting or requiring some things? That's cool that you'll be able to actually work with them and make requests from the town. And that's the town that you built in the main game, so it'll be interesting to see. Edict on the employment of children. So you have to make decisions on your outpost based on what they make. And I find that to be very cool, where the game will throw different events at you that they've made a decision on rather than doing it yourself. We've had the control the whole time. But again, this will be available August 20th, 2020, and that's exactly when I'll be playing it too. And Season Pass will give you all of the things on screen there. The Rifts, the Last Autumn, and On the Edge. Those were all good DLCs. The game very solid with that awesome, iconic music that you hear playing. And, of course, it'll be nice that it'll all wrap up quite nicely. If you haven't gotten this game before on a sale, it could be good to wait for a sale to get the Season Pass and all the DLCs once it's out. So if you're still on the edge about getting it, no pun intended, then definitely take the plunge when it comes time to get it for a sale. The game, of course, not easy. It is a very challenging game. You can put it on easier settings, and that, of course, is much easier to manage, and then, of course, take on a better challenge or a bigger challenge on normal or on hard, and that, of course, will make you a much better player in the long run and give you challenges and difficult decisions that made Frostpunk great. So this will be available on Steam, and then I believe it's also on console, so console players will have to wait a little longer than August 20th in order to get the DLCs, but that will be just fine. So On the Edge coming on August 20th, 2020. Let's hear what the developer has to say, then we'll watch those initial trailers that I spoke over as well, and let's see what is in store for us in the coming DLC.
Hello everyone, my name is Jakub Stokalski. I'm the project lead and lead designer of Frostpunk. And today, I'm very excited to invite you to show the third and final expansion for Frostpunk, called On the Edge. If you recall, the previous one, The Lost Autumn, was a prequel scenario, set before the events of the Great Frost and before the whole world went to hell. On the Edge takes a different approach. It shows you the surroundings of the New London after the Great Storm. The Great Storm took a lot from your people and a lot from your city, but also it gave something in return. And in this scenario, you'll be able to see what exactly. One of the sites that got uncovered by the Great Winds was exactly this site. It looks to be a ruin of some kind, of maybe an army outpost, which turns out to be very rich with resources and an old abandoned warehouse that clearly tried to prepare itself for the storm and for the frost, but really didn't make it. In On the Edge, you are not your own city, and this will be apparent immediately when you start playing this scenario. There are some pretty obvious differences and obvious changes that will impact the way you play. The most notable one is the fact that you don't really have the generator here in the center of your city, so you will have to find other ways to keep your people warm, building your city slightly differently. Because obviously, this is after the Great Storm, but it's not spring. it's still very much cold and it's still very much Frostpunk. Other elements, classic staples of the game that you might remember from all of the other scenarios also work differently, such as the Book of Laws. Like I said, you are not your own city in this scenario, so you will have to deal with whatever laws New London deems fit for your settlement. You'll be always able to ask for help in particular things, but you will very much have to deal with whatever they send your way ultimately on your own. The situation and the map itself is also quite different. As you can see, it's not as spacious as some of the other maps that you might remember from the base game. And this has some pretty direct consequences. For instance, you are not really resource independent. There are no game to hunt here in the mountains, and the ground is too unstable to build heavy industry such as the hothouses. So we will have to depend for food shipments on New London, which they in turn expect you to fulfill your shipments of resources from this outpost. Other resources are not surefire either. Wood can run out, and you will have to ultimately at some point go out and try to find other ways for procuring the basic stuff that your city needs, and that your city needs to also send the way of New London with the redone transportation depot here. So I've shown you the beginning, but very much the core of this scenario lies on a slightly different level. So let me show it now. Let us jump ahead to a slightly more developed settlement, and obviously it is very important for you to manage your people well and develop your settlement well, to brave all of the world that has thrown at you here. But the heart of the scenario very much lies on a slightly different level here on the Frostlands. You'll be able to explore sites both old and new to see what happened to them during the Great Storm, and explore new places that you might find useful. But miraculously, you'll be able to encounter other settlements of survivors who also managed to survive the Great Storm. And if resources in your outpost run out, and you have to go out exploring, the relationships with these settlements and the way you shape it, whether to help each other or to use them to further your own agenda, will very much shape how this scenario plays out. Will you be able to find common ground with them and find common cooperation among different settlements with different needs and different wants? Or will you use them to achieve your own goals? All of these choices and the skill with which you manage these strained social relationships will determine the fate not only of your own settlement and of those that you encounter, but possibly the fate of New London itself and the whole surrounding Frostlands. But for now, I don't really want to spoil anything more. You'll have to play yourself to find out what happens. On the Edge releases on August the 20th, and you'll be able to buy it both separately and also as part of the Season Pass, which includes all of the 3 expansions that we've released for Frostpunk so far. It will be coming out for the PCs first, but rest assured, we are working hard on bringing all of the update content, both the Season Pass and other updates for consoles as well. And as soon as we have something concrete to share, we'll be sure to do so. Thanks everyone for watching. This really is quite an emotional moment for us, because this is the last step on the way that was Frostpunk for us at 11-Bit Studios and at the Frostpunk team. And we truly hope that you'll love it at least as much as we loved making it for you. Thanks a lot everyone, and see you around in the Frostlands.
They say the snow is dead, but we've learned to the contrary. Snow is ever-changing, unstable, restless. We survived the Great Storm. It took away a lot from us. Still, it gave us something in return. Tempestuous winds brought relics of the past to light. ones that can bring hope for the future. Our assignment was simple. Arrive at the site, build a reliable camp, and create a stable chain of supply. In return, we'd get food and necessities. A square deal. But deals have this peculiar quality. Just like the snow.